The whole Smacks and Wax thing came about because my wife is a very gifted wood crafter. We've been more successful than we anticipated and more popular than we anticipated.
What a great problem.
And the growth was just exponential, just straight off the bat. That was actually our debut. It was November 2024.
Oh, so this is...
So that you were like, you
not
were
even
year
2 years
one
old
then
yet.
when we met. Okay.
Get
wow.
out
That's
of
how
town.
insanely.
Wow.
And everyone thinks that we're so put together and everything, that we've been doing this so long. Half of what I've learned in doing vendor events is you always make friends with your neighbors.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
100%. Yes.
Because like sometimes that's potential clients for one. And then two, it just makes the whole event go
so much
smoother.
better. So much better.
And some of these vendors, they think you need to compete with each other. Like, oh, like if you get a sale, I don't get a sale. And it's like, the thing that irritates me is that we're supposed to be a kink community and sometimes we don't act like it. Walked into a munch. I looked up for whatever reason and she was standing across the table from me. And of course she's ADHD, not saying a word, just looking at me, staring awkwardly. And I just kind of like, you're like me.
Yeah.
And I just knew. No day is promised for any of us. I mean, you never know what's going to happen. And I've actually, like throughout my life, there's been times where I've lost somebody unexpectedly and you go back to that last conversation that you had with them and you usually have regrets because that's not what you think is going to be your last time. Yep. So not to go on the negative side of it, but it's just like you want to move forward and you want to live life authentically because life is too short to live like a half-assed version of somebody else.
What's up, sinners and saints?
This is Boudoir After Dark.
This is the podcast about sex, kink, desires, and all the things people whisper about but rarely ever say out loud.
And we're constantly blown away by how many different ways humans experience pleasure, identity, intimacy, and power.
We're here to ask the questions that sometimes people might be too afraid to ask, and then challenge the bullshit assumptions that we've all been taught.
So if you're here to learn, unlearn, and maybe question a few things you thought you knew,
welcome to Boudoir After Dark.
Quick note before we get into it.
This podcast is intended for mature audiences.
We are not giving medical or legal advice.
Or mental health advice or professional counseling.
If you need personal help, please talk to a qualified professional.
This episode is for education, storytelling, and entertainment.
Let's get into it.
Boudoir After Dark. This is me.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Boudoir After Dark podcast, brought to you by Boudoir After Dark. My name's Jason.
I'm Hilda.
And together we are Boudoir After Dark.
.com.
That's going to be our official jingle. Throughout our journey of our own business and our own personal journeys, we've started going to conventions and started trying to sell our services as boudoir photography and videography. And one of the very first conventions that we went to was not only probably our favorite of all time, Kinky College, but it provided us to be dropped into the middle of a community that is so welcoming and warm and loving and embracing and accepting. And one of those aspects that we weren't expecting was to make good friends with our vendor neighbors. Today on the podcast, we would like to introduce our very first friend from our our first convention, MissKyleigh of Smacks and Wax. And I cannot tell you how excited I am because we've done 2 conventions together.
Yeah.
And the second convention, we ended up talking for like 2 straight hours.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, we just recorded a podcast. Maybe you should actually come on the show.
Yep. So here we are. And thank you for dressing for the occasion. You look amazing.
It's Virgo type A. I can't help it. This is like inherently my personality. So
very cute.
So during the convention, it was wildly obvious how popular your booth was.
Yeah.
Smacks and Wax is insanely popular.
And what do you sell?
Yeah. So we actually started with the, I guess what I've learned is premium exotic wood. Because we don't use scrap wood. we
For your paddles.
yeah, so I actually hand select the wood myself.
Oh.
Like the actual pieces
Yeah,
that you...
the actual pieces. We tried going through an online distributor once and never again, because quality actually is what we stand for. So I actually hand select all the pieces of wood, and it actually came about. The whole Smacks and Wax thing came about because my wife is a very gifted wood crafter.
It please allow me to interrupt for a second and say that is the simplest way of saying like genius level pieces of, I mean, the artistry that goes into these.
Yeah.
And she's standing behind the table like
the entire
constantly
time.
just working. I mean, unbelievable.
We talked to her about that. It's like, well, why are you doing this? Why don't you? Because I can't keep up. Like
No.
people were like constantly buying stuff.
Yes. That's actually we've been more successful than we anticipated and more popular than we anticipated.
What a great problem.
And the
to
growth was just exponential, just straight off the bat.
So how did you start the business?
So in her gifted woodworking talent, she actually made a paddle for somebody who had their car broken into and their entire toy bag was stolen.
Oh my God.
And because my wife was literally the person who would like give you the shirt off her back, she was like, I'll make a paddle for you. Like she had donated one to KK in the past and she volunteered to make a nice paddle for this person. And the moment I saw the completed project, like I had seen some of the stuff that she had created before. This was nothing new to me, but I was like, honey, you don't need to be doing this for free. This is an actual business. And literally within a week, I set up everything. And we were at Kinky College talking with friends because we've been volunteers for several years. We know so many people at this point. She actually started thinking like, yeah, we should do a business. Yeah, we should get together and everything. So not long after we did the first event at Satyricon, they have like an annual vendor event.
We've been hearing nothing about but good things about
Yeah.
Satyricon.
Yeah. So that was actually our debut. It was November, I want to say 2024.
Oh, so this is
So that you were
This is
like you
not
were
even 2
year
years
one
old
then
yet.
when
No.
we met. Okay.
get
Wow.
out
That's
of
how
town.
insanely.
Wow.
And everyone thinks that we're so put together and everything, that we've been doing this so long. But actually, like, I mean, some of that comes from the fact that I did vendor events personally in my vanilla life and everything. So I already had a lot of the materials to present ourselves professionally. I was an accountant, finance, whatever. I have since put that career behind me because of the toxic whatever of it. But I already had like the know-how of setting up a successful business, and it just took off.
Good for you. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
I mean,
So-
it's outstanding. And
Yeah.
that, like, that's like the American dream. That's the American dream of like being like, hey, I want to start this business. Boom, we sold everything.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
that's
Well, that's
incredible.
how you know that there's a need for
That's
it.
it.
So
Right.
obviously you saw a
Right.
need. You saw that your wife can produce a quality
Yeah.
product. So
Yeah.
does she do this full time now?
No, she does a full-time office job, provides insurance for us and everything. So
That's so smart.
But yeah, so actually she has that full-time job, plus she does this, and then sometimes she also does Amazon deliveries to help us make ends meet while I'm in
my
Holy
God.
crap.
while I'm in grad school full-time. So we have multiple plates that we are constantly spinning 24/7, 365.
Just seeing you together, your relationship seems so effortless.
Yeah, it
like
does.
the way you interact, it's all like you make it look so easy that it's almost like
Because it is. It
I'm
is.
so jealous. Like
Are you jealous because we argue nonstop?
yes,
Awesome.
like I
And we
want to
don't
have
actually argue much either because we're so in sync. And there are
Yeah.
times where we'll say the exact same thing at the same time. She is my soulmate. And I
Aw.
got lucky that I basically walked into a munch. I looked up for whatever reason and she was standing across the table from me. And of course, she's ADHD, not saying a word, just looking at me, staring awkwardly. And I just kind of like, you're like me.
yeah.
And I just knew.
And it was your first munch?
No, actually, I had been in the community for maybe 2 months at that
Oh,
point.
that's still
That's
really,
early on.
really
So-
early.
Okay.
I had actually gotten my heart stomped on very recently in that distant past, whatever, about 10 years ago. And I kind of dared the universe to send me somebody better because I didn't see that possibility. And it took me 2 months walking into that munch. We actually celebrate the day that we met every single year
Oh.
because it was so pivotal for everything that happened.
Everything has
Since then.
dominoed.
Yeah.
And I actually have I'm an intuitive empath. So sometimes there are things that I just know. And when I met her staring across that table, basically I just knew. And when she left, we actually didn't exchange numbers or anything like that. So when she left and she was going down to the parking lot and going in her car, I had a really hard time not running after her because it was we didn't connect. We didn't know anything.
But did you talk at all?
We talked a
Okay,
little bit throughout the
okay.
exchange and whatever, but the way she spells her scene name in a loud bar, it was actually really hard to understand because it's rack, but it's RAQUE. And that was really hard to understand in a bar. And
Yeah.
I was still pretty new and I didn't
And
really
you
know.
search every version of that.
Yeah. So I actually ended up putting on the event page it was nice meeting everyone. By the way, I was the lady in the red dress.
Oh.
So you did the hitch
Breadcrumbs.
90%.
Yeah.
It's you
yeah.
go 90%, let them come the other 10.
Yeah.
Here's the breadcrumbs in case you want to follow it.
And she followed it.
Nice.
Oh, my
nice.
God.
So she reached out to you on FET then?
Yes,
Do you
yes.
remember what her first message was to you?
I don't recall, but I do have screenshots just because I wanted that memory of
Good for you.
we were hot and heavy in the very beginning.
Yeah.
Because when you have that soul connection, I think at one point in time she said I was intoxicating. Just
Oh my God.
because I'm intensely passionate. It just comes out naturally.
I
can't
haven't
help
sseeen or heard or felt anything
we
like
don't know
that
what
from
you're
you.
talking about.
I'm sorry. That is the most sarcastic thing I've
Yes.
said. So please continue.
That's
There's a
so
reason we
sweet.
begged you to be on
Right.
the show.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I can't help it. And at this point, I'm over 40. I've been through so much in my life. I am unapologetically me
Fuck yes. That's the
because I'm tired.
That's
I'm tired
the
of
bonus
Yeah.
about getting old. At one
Yeah.
point you're just fuck this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's just go.
I'm done with the games.
Love that.
Yeah.
We're gonna live life now because life is
Aw.
short. So
That's awesome.
Yes.
That's
But
awesome.
I think shit has to happen in the life
yes.
to get to that stage.
Yes. And now you appreciate what you have. And especially so I'm a cancer survivor. I live life to the fullest. And sometimes that intimidates a lot of people. But I am tired of not living life because I spent a lot of years barely surviving, barely making it. And I just don't want to live life in that shadow and have any regrets.
Because you know how short life is and how quickly, my
Yeah.
husband suddenly passed away, and I'm like, as
Very
devastating as that
suddenly.
was, heart attack, found
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
But as sudden as that was, and as devastating as that was, it totally changed my perspective on life
Yeah.
and how I live
Yeah.
it. I'm like, I don't have time for BS or nonsense. If you're not in my life as a positive source, as a
Yeah.
positive person, I'm like, I don't have time for you.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. No day is promised for any of us. I mean, you never know what's going to happen. And I've actually, throughout my life, there's been times where I've lost somebody unexpectedly, and you go back to that last conversation that you had with them, and you usually have regrets because that's not what you think is going to be your last time. Yeah. So not to go on the negative side of it, but it's just you want to move forward and you want to live life authentically because life is too short to live a half-assed version of somebody else.
100%. Yeah. No one on their deathbed ever regretted, staying later at work. I should have stayed later. I should
Right.
have scrolled on my phone more. I should
Yeah.
no, it's
Yeah.
all about the relationships that
Right.
you build and nurture. Yeah, absolutely.
So you built this amazing relationship with
Yeah.
your soulmate. And not only do you have this amazing relationship, but you guys built a thriving business
Right.
together.
Right. Well, and I think so what my wife and I have is actually unconditional love. And I know some people think that doesn't exist, but one thing that had me like in my foundational life as a kid, my birth mom actually loved me unconditionally. She was the first person who actually did. And that is a core memory for me. I actually have my baby book. She wrote to me in my baby book, and it's everything about her experience as a mom and everything. And she wrote, "I love you" at one point in time in it. And I actually got it tattooed on me several years ago just because I wanted that with me always.
Aww.
So like, that's what I have with my wife is unconditional love. And so many people have relationships that function off of conditions. I only love you when you're good to me. I only love you when things are perfect. And I think that's inherently human nature because we're trying to live life as best we can and like what's advantageous for us moment to moment. It's human nature, I think, to some degree. But my wife and I, we function with trust and honesty. That's inherent to our relationship. If you don't have that aspect of it, it's probably not going to be a healthy relationship. And we had spent so many years with other people where we didn't have that honesty, trust, valuing one another. And it goes beyond what we can do for each other because it's unconditional. So
yeah, no one's keeping score.
no.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is that it's not a bank that you make deposits into and like, oh, but I've put in 40, so you have to match me. It's just kind of like it's give and take. And as we've evolved through so many hardships in our relationship, let me be honest, it has not been a perfect road. As kismet as that first interaction was, it was not easy to get here. We went through a lot of hardships to make it this far. And that adds to our strength.
Right. Because if it's worth fighting for, you know, you were willing to put in the effort.
Oh, and I fought for her.
Aww.
I fought for her even when she wasn't ready. So I waited patiently until she was ready. And we were sitting on a beach. She was talking about her transition because she had not quite transitioned yet, being transgender. And we were talking about how to go about everything on a beach. And then I finally had my moment where I was like, have you thought about being together officially? I was patient. I waited. It was the moment that I felt was right. And she finally said, yeah, what are we waiting for? And that beach conversation lives rent-free in my life sometimes just because it was the moment. It was the moment that was right. And it gave her space and respect as she transitioned through all these things, as she tried to figure out herself independently from me. And
so can I ask a rude question? Please stop me.
Yeah.
Because I used to watch podcasts and shows such as what we're having now. And the question always in my head is like screaming all this. And I need clarification from somebody who knows. So my first question is, when you met your wife, was she presenting as male or female?
Male.
Male. Okay.
And actually nobody knew her secret. That was actually a huge hurdle to us being together because actually that was the journey that we all had was defining our sexuality and identity.
So that was my next question.
Yeah.
Did you identify as a straight woman?
Yeah, actually.
Okay.
So
how do you identify now that your wife is female?
Yeah. So in identifying, you know, her journey and finally that expression and everything that she came out finally, I learned that I was pansexual for one. Because
and the definition of that is?
Pansexual is attraction to somebody no matter what their gender is. It's just not a factor.
Got it.
There are some people who have a sexuality that depends on, I want this presentation, I want this body part.
Yeah.
And for me, it was irrelevant. And I didn't know that until suddenly she said this. It was actually a very interesting interaction that came through a series of events. I hugged her once and I felt what was a bra strap. And I was like, is this the reason we're not together? And she wasn't quite ready to tell me these things. And it took her a couple months. But while those couple months were transpiring, I did some self-reflection. And I was kind of like, does this change my love for this person? And honestly, it didn't. It wasn't a factor because I was in love with a person, not the expression, not the body parts, not anything like that. That was my soulmate, period. And
were you in love with her?
Yeah.
Before she transitioned?
The whole time.
Oh.
The whole time.
So when did she transition? How long into your relationship was it?
Probably the 5-year mark
Okay.
was when she started looking at HRT. She was open with me privately, so it was only a few people that knew. Only a few people.
Got it.
And that was actually the first kinky college that she went to and expressed a female presentation, because the kink community operates in such a way.
Right.
Some people thought she was cross-dressing at first. You never know. Maybe you're dabbling a little bit.
Yeah.
Because kinky college is all about like open and accepting and affirming and all that. So
And just for the vanillas like me, the
Yeah.
difference between a trans person and a cross-dressing person is somebody that just wears clothes, female
Right.
clothes, wants to dress up
Right.
for fun, and the trans person wants to live life as a
Yes.
female. Okay.
it's an identity thing, not just an expression.
Got it. Thank
Ooh,
you.
That's a nice way of saying
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because like there's a lot of ways that you can identify, but then there's also a lot of ways you can express that. So in that journey between like me realizing I'm pansexual, I also realized that I was demisexual as well.
Which is?
Demi kind of means that you need a connection before you have attraction. So like the hottest person stereotypically could walk in, be stark naked, and most people would be like drooling and want to hop on that. And it does nothing for me.
Yeah, he's giving me that look because he recently discovered that he's also pansexual. Demisexual.
Demi.
Yeah.
And that's actually comes up a lot in the kink community because we often interact with play and sexual acts are not involved for us because we need that connection first.
Yep.
And I think that brings up a lot of things about consent, and we're trying to include that narrative in the future. But yeah, so that identity, the sexuality that I was defining at the time, that came from my wife's transition. Much later into our relationship, once we were engaged and everything, I was actually at a conference for work in Vegas, and they had an LGBT session. And the word that came out of that changed my life was actually gender nonconforming.
Okay, what does that mean?
So gender nonconforming is basically taking, the male-female binary sequence and basically saying, I choose to represent the best of both. It's not quite the same thing as non-binary, and it's not androgynous, where like it's the absence of any gender. I can choose to express either or, be the best version of either or.
Given their mood, the day, whatever they feel like. Okay.
Right. So I just, I used to say things like, I'd make a great guy if not for the toxic masculinity. And most women don't say such things. So, yeah, that was kind of life-changing for me. And my wife's been very accepting of my transition, and I've obviously been very accepting of her transition.
What transition is it for you?
So a lot of things I do to like incorporate different things is like one, I wear like masculine scents, fragrances, because I enjoy it. And it makes me feel great. Actually, it's something that I enjoy. I do have a various collection of vests because I like that look.
I'm so shocked right now because like you are so feminine and gorgeous. So I'm trying to picture you in a vest with like.
I love it. I absolutely
I love it
Yeah.
too, but it's like, whoa, like what?
If my frame was a little bit better, so my body's been through a lot with cancer and everything.
Yeah.
So if I felt better, I would be rocking the suspenders and everything like that. So just there are certain things that I have goals for later in life as things progress and everything.
Okay.
But yeah, so
do you identify as female? Am I saying this wrong?
presenting
as female.
Yeah.
Do you identify as a lesbian?
Pansexual.
Pansexual.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay,
so
you just said that.
I'm not just with women.
Got it.
Type of thing.
Got it. And is your relationship poly?
No, we are exclusive, monogamous, but we do engage in play with other people.
But you do it together.
Separate.
Separate.
You're making a lot of
Oh my
assumptions
God.
real
I
quick.
know.
Okay.
I
So
know.
wait,
You're checking off the box before like.
No, I'm looking for clarification.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
And like you seem like the perfect person to ask. Okay, so
absolutely.
you're not poly,
Correct.
but you engage with other people separately. So then what is that called?
That's engaging in play with other people. So that's like play partners or whatever. So we don't have exclusive play partner relationships right now. We just engage, like if we go to Kinky College, we're free to play with whomever.
Gotcha.
Whatever. And usually my wife, because I am her mistress, she is my principessa.
Wait, what was that?
Principessa. So it's the Italian version of princess. We actually
That's adorable.
That's so cute.
we like a lot of things Italian. So actually at our wedding,
Who's Italian?
neither of us. We just like the culture. So
I'm all in for this. I'm all
This is
in.
amazing.
yeah, so she actually walked down the aisle to El Mundo. And for those who aren't familiar, there's a movie called About Time. And it's kind of a quirky song. And the groom is down the aisle and shocked and whatever, like, oh, you're walking down to this. Like, I'm excited.
Yes.
And he starts dancing all quirky, but so does his dad and everything.
Aw.
And that's who my wife and I are. We're quirky, we're fun, whatever. So the entire wedding guests, whatever attendants, probably didn't realize what was going on. But I'm dancing all funny, just like the character does in the movie. My wife is so excited. She can't get down the aisle fast enough. And
Sorry, that came
Wait.
out like really high pitch. I'm sorry. I was so excited.
Who was walking down the aisle? Both of you together?
separately. So I walked in with a close friend who actually was the officiant of the wedding.
Okay.
Because I don't have parents or anything like that. I really don't have a family at this point.
Yeah.
So I walked down with my officiant. We did the classic canon in D. I'm fighting back tears. So I have resting bitch face so hard.
Because you're trying not to cry?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So I'm trying not to cry.
So you both wore wedding dresses?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. I actually debated about wearing an all black one, but I did the classic. We got married at a barn. It was
What is it
literally a rustic barn.
What's the name of it?
Rustic barn.
Oh, that's literally it? Okay.
We come
Come
from the wedding world.
Oh, yeah.
Like we shot weddings for 15, 20
Yeah,
years. So
yeah. So it's out in the sticks in Burlington, Wisconsin.
Okay.
And
Oh my God, I know this place.
yeah.
You've been?
I
It's
shot a
beautiful.
same-sex wedding there. It was beautiful.
It's picturesque and
Yeah.
everything. And
Oh, it's like a postcard. Oh
yeah,
my God.
Yeah. So actually, diverting a little bit
Sorry.
off that train, but my wife and I, before we got engaged, before we ever knew where this track was headed, we were at a very close friend of mine's wedding. So she was getting married. It was a barn and everything. And my wife and I had just gone public with our relationship. We're an official couple after all these years. We finally made it official. And my best friend was kind of like, oh, can I announce it? Can I do this? Can I do that?
Oh, that's sweet.
And she basically planned it that way. I caught the bouquet.
at her wedding?
Yeah.
Oh.
And then my wife was presenting as male for the purposes of the wedding at the time because she wasn't quite out yet.
Yeah.
And she caught the garter and everything. So we had our first dance and everything.
Oh my God. That's
She planned
amazing.
it because
Who cares? It's so
Yeah.
amazing.
and everyone thought I was crazy to technically wait for my wife to figure out everything in the 5 years that transpired. But this friend was so committed to what we had. She understood. She understood the assignment, basically.
That's fucking
So
unbelievable.
she planned this whole thing, and then we went to the wedding, and then my wife and I were sitting there, and we hypothetically planned our own wedding.
At the wedding?
At the
at
wedding.
the wedding.
Well, yeah, because that's where you get ideas from.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And it was like, oh, do you like this? Do you like that? Whatever. And we hypothetically planned our, supposed wedding. Little did either of us know that following Monday, I would be talking with the bride who just got married. And she was like, so when are we doing your wedding? And because she knew the connection and everything. I mean, that's the thing that everyone who witnesses my wife and I interacting is we can be across the room and you can almost feel the tether between us just because.
I have seen it, and frankly, it's almost bordering on bizarre because, you see this shit in the movies, like it shouldn't exist in real life, but you just
we do.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's so sweet.
But yeah, so she's talking with me, and she's like, "What are you waiting for?" And I basically said, like, I knew about my cancer diagnosis at that point. All the tests came back positive. We knew. We had the serious conversations already because that's what we agreed to in our relationship. We were very candid and had these open conversations of like, where is this going? Because we were nearing our 40s at that time. And it was like, this is the time to start having these serious conversations. It's not like we're 20. So we had all these conversations and everything, and we knew where we were headed. And it was just kind of like, what are we waiting for? So basically, the next day, I went into a jeweler, picked out the ring. The first one I looked at, the jeweler picked a very beautiful diamond. And I knew that my wife wanted a simple, just one stone thing. But I kind of gave her a sparkly upgrade. And they had to make the ring through, I think, 8 weeks. So that was right around the time of my surgery for cancer. Because that's the only treatment that was available because my cancer was rare and aggressive. So I planned it. And basically, I had talked with friends about like, you have a successful marriage. Well, how did that come to be? And they would usually say, well, we did it privately. It was just a candid conversation. Whatever.
You mean the proposal you were asking about? Okay.
Yeah. So a friend had a really very cute proposal where they were at home decorating the Christmas tree, and he had handed her an ornament, and it was actually the ring box and proposed. Oh my God. So I kind of stole that idea.
That's definitely a great one.
We're decorating the tree, and I needed help at the time because I was just after surgery, maybe 10 days. And
Smooth move, by the way.
I know. I felt maybe a little manipulative doing it because I am so...
Who the fuck is going to say no to somebody that just survived cancer at Christmas? Like, are you kidding me?
I more so felt like because I was secretive about how it was coming to pass in those 8 weeks, we had several like serious conversations about like kids and planning and everything. I wanted to make sure that like, are we on the same page?
Right.
Are we doing this right?
So how long is the proposal and where you had the beach conversation? What's the time frame in between?
June was the beach conversation. We were a couple by August. I proposed in November.
You don't fuck around, do you? Okay, back to the proposal. Yeah.
So then we actually, I did the decorating and everything, and I'm handing everything. I have a curated playlist for everything because I'm Virgo type A, so I do it right.
Yep.
And I hand her the ring box, and she's ADHD, and she's looking at it like, well, where's the string to put on the tree?
That is so cute. And she's in that, this is what we're doing, Frankie.
These are the rules.
Yeah, tism, just very focused.
You don't throw anything.
What is this?
No.
What do I do with
Nope.
this? So then I brought her over, and because I cry and I'm very passionate,
Did you have a speech prepared?
I did.
Oh.
Virgo type A.
Did it come out?
I had 37 reasons why she should marry me.
Did you say them?
I'm gonna fucking cry.
I did.
Oh, good for you.
Did you have it written down?
Yes, I
Okay.
had my laptop out and whatever and everything.
I'm like, that's rough to remember.
No,
oh no,
gonna
there's
say.
no way. There's no way. I'd forget.
You get through 3 and you're like, there's 34 more, but wait a second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aw.
So about reason 16, I start bawling.
Oh.
I start bawling, and she's holding my hand, and we're going through this whole thing, and she's very patient as I read everything. And one of the things I said was, this is the most selfish thing I will ever ask to do, but I would regret not asking you to be mine.
Oh my God.
And I basically said, will you marry me? And she didn't even say any words, just like when we first met. And she just nodded. And it was just kind of like, wait, really? Because it took us like 5.5, almost 6 years to get to this point. You nod? It's that easy? Really? She threw me. I was like, are you sure?
This is the most romantic movie I've never watched.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so fucking beautiful.
Yeah.
Like,
so,
oh.
And we joke about that because it was just kind of like, well, I shocked you when I said yes, right? And it was just like, well, it was like pulling teeth to get you to get this far. So I expected like, yeah, let's think about it or whatever.
Really?
But,
okay.
Yeah. So I expected, and when she agreed to be a couple, she knew that we were endgame. So she had already made up her mind. So when I asked, she had already made her decision. She had already chosen me. It was just really a formality at that point. So yeah, that long progression of that train that we derailed, that is our relationship. And that's how we came to be and everything. So
that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
That is so beautiful.
Everything that we've been through. And that actually is like the basis for everything we do, whether that's me presenting. She usually presents with me or she's my assistant or whatever, just because we are a set, basically.
Presenting what?
Topics, like asked to be a presenter at either
like
conventions.
Okay. And what topics do you talk about?
Typically mental health, but like healthy relationships, how to keep the connection alive even after so long.
Okay. So can you talk about like the mental health aspect a little bit?
Yeah. So part of why half of us come to kink is that we're all kind of neurospicy. We are neurodivergent. Our brains are wired differently, so we take on risk, and kink is full of risk, let's be honest. So a lot of us find some catharsis in engaging in kink because oftentimes, and I'll divert a little bit here, but there was a presenter that I went to at Kinky College, and he basically said something that resonated with me and was a core memory, was that so many people, especially women, engage in kink because our consent was taken from us.
Oh, I haven't heard it this way.
Okay.
In multiple ways. Now, this can be forms of abuse, either like emotional, mental, physical, whatever. So when we engage in kinky acts, we are taking that power back.
Yes.
And we are saying, I consent. I decide what happens.
Yes.
And it's empowering and it feels euphoric and it's intoxicating. And then there's all the brain chemicals that go along with that. Unfortunately, because that transpires, we also forget the risks that are aware, and we forget our hard limits and soft limits and everything. So like the negotiations that it transpired before, and sometimes we're engaged in a play session, a scene, and we forget the limits that we established.
That's why you have to play with somebody safe and very much on board with what you have planned.
Right.
So in case you do forget that they won't.
Yes. So one of the things that I actually utilize the most often, it's called RAC, and it's risk-aware consensual kink.
Okay.
There are several forms that have diverged from that, but that's probably the one that I remember the most because it was one that I started with. And it's basically like Virgo type A. I like knowing up front what are the cards that I've been dealt. And that actually helps with negotiations and to set up the limits and everything. I need to know the risk up front so I can make a better decision in how to engage. So I actually identify as a switch, which means that I'm not just dominant or submissive. Often in scenes, because I don't live the lifestyle 24/7, I identify as a top, like a top leading switch, I think is kind of the technical term. But I am often the top in a scene. So I want to know the risks. I want to be prepared. I want to know all the limits and everything. And that helps me make better decisions in a scene. And often I tend to lead a scene how I wish things had been done with me. Because there are plenty of times where somebody may have pushed the limits. There are some people who do like to do that thing. That is their thing. And I guess I didn't appreciate that. I want to give a scene that actually includes consent and feels natural. And as an intuitive empath, I'm often exchanging energies with a person that I'm in a scene with. And that's very draining too.
Absolutely. And that form you were talking about, is that something that is available to anybody so they can kind of...
It's not really a form, but some people do have like a negotiation form that includes that information because basically you want to make sure, do you have any health issues that I need to be aware of? And that includes like, are you diabetic? Did you go through cancer? Did you have any injuries? Did you also have a stressful day lately? Did you divorce your partner recently? There are a lot of things that go into deciding, is your mental clarity like good going into the scene?
And how important is that?
Pivotal. Paramount. Like everything. Just because that goes into the brain chemicals that you go into a scene with. You had a stressful drive-in. The commuting was horrible. I know one event that I went to, I got in a little fender bender right beforehand, and that stressed me out. So that's a type of scenario that like you maybe want to give somebody a heads up, or maybe you decide that like, no, my mental status is not good enough to still partake in a scene.
And you have to be very self-aware in order to get there, you know, because a lot of people would just be like, you know,
a lot of people
just
don't.
like go, yes.
Or they say like, oh, we agreed to this. I am like locked in for this. And for me, when I engage in a scene, you can tell me no at any point, whether that's 2 minutes before we're supposed to go into a scene, or even 30 minutes in, or 15 minutes in, 5 minutes in. Consent can be withdrawn at any time.
And that should apply to everyone.
Yes.
Okay.
Top or bottom, dominant or submissive, master or slave. And I think that's something that is changing and evolving in kink, because there are a lot of people who think that dominants or masters or any sort of like top leaning dynamic is that they call the shots. They're the ones who are in control.
Right.
You must obey me at all times. And that's great for like the purposes of the relationship, but it ignores consent because all parties need to be enthusiastically consenting at all times, period.
So even if you are a 24/7 slave to a master, that conversation, that negotiation should have
always,
you know, that should be there as a baseline.
Right.
Yeah.
And actually have the ability to evolve as the relationship evolves. Because what you wanted 2 years ago may not be the same. Your needs can evolve and everything.
Yeah.
Your perspective can also change.
Right.
So, I mean, I guess that goes into the consent of everything and the mental health status that you're in. So that's kind of why I talk about like consent is my kink. Just engaging in risk-aware kink, and then also being able to engage in healthy relationships in the community, just because we play with our traumas too. And we do need to be considerate of our current mental health status going into not just a scene, but a relationship, and interacting with not just your primary partner or multiple partners if you're poly, but also the community at large. Well, and then there are things like triggers that come up and you're not always aware of your trigger. So
this just happened recently, if I can talk about that for a minute. We were at a dungeon event and we were there photographing, and I was not aware that a scene involved a man yelling at a woman.
Oh, yeah.
It was like an interrogation scene.
Yeah.
So, because I've seen this couple play before and I knew what to expect. I knew that there was, you know,
or at least you thought you did.
Yes. I never heard him raise his voice ever.
Yeah.
But that was like what they negotiated, and I wasn't ready. And like loud man, you know, yelling is like, that's my trigger. I almost jumped out of my skin. Like I was like, do I run for the hills or what? So I looked at Jason and he's like, it's okay. I'm like, okay, cool. So I took some deep breaths and like recentered myself. But yeah, like I asked them, I said, next time, please let me know that if there's going to be yelling, you know, so I can prepare myself, because that was definitely, I almost had to leave. So, yeah.
So that's a good question. like in an environment like KK where it's like, or like an open dungeon, right? I would think it would be much harder to tell everybody there this is going to be happening. But in a more secluded, smaller environment, whose responsibility is it to tell other people? Because while that might be a trigger for one person in a group of like 40 people.
I think it would have been my responsibility to talk to the dungeon monitor and ask like what kind of scenes are people usually doing. And I assumed that everyone's going to be doing their regular stuff. So this was a good lesson for me.
I think anything assumption-wise is a pretty
Exactly.
shitty thing anyway, but especially in this scenario.
And going back to the Kinky College thing, since, you know, we were there as vendors and we got to see some of the things, I knew that I could see or hear something. So as I was walking around, I had like my armor or my mental armor up, so I was ready.
Yeah.
But since I was there as a photographer and I was like, you know, not
well, your
in that
mind is
mindset,
completely different.
Your guard
I was in
down.
work mode. My guard was down. So that's why that happened.
Yeah. So I feel like there's almost some sort of like etiquette at a large convention like Kinky College. You try not to be disruptive to the people around you. However, in like a smaller dungeon type scenario, I have seen people definitely engage in something that's a little more loud, yelling.
Right. But that's why they're there. You know,
Disruptive almost to the people around them. Oftentimes I will feel like if they know it's happening ahead of time, they might talk to a dungeon monitor ahead of time just to like give them a heads up. Sometimes like an inexperienced dungeon monitor might intervene just to make sure this seems like a consensual non-consent area. Is this still, or they might be watching the scene a little more intensely to watch for like that red or the limit or anything like that.
Yeah. And this was a very experienced couple. And, you know, so we knew that she was okay, but it was very intense. It was very fun to watch though once I got past the shock. It was like, ooh.
Well, some people for that, it's like they want the escalation of feelings.
Yeah.
So then when they decide to release all of that, it's usually very passionate, intense.
Yep.
Some people thrive off that
Oh,
sort of
hell yeah.
thing.
She was like walking on a cloud afterwards.
Yeah.
And then I saw her in the couch like an hour later. She's like, I think I need to lie down. Yeah.
Crashing. Absolutely.
But she got
which
the
is-
proper aftercare and everything. Yeah. They're amazing to watch.
Yeah, so it's interesting being at like a convention like Kinky College. I feel like, so 10 years ago when I got started, I went to my first Kinky College. I was definitely very vanilla still at the time.
Really?
And I was used to being clothed. I had always been that way even since I was a little girl. I was very private. I didn't like doing things in public. And one of the things that basically transpired, I will never forget this person. They had all these imperfections on display, or at least what would be perceived to like normal people.
Beautifully said.
Yes.
Beautifully
Oh my
said.
God.
Yeah.
I love that.
So she had the rolls and she had the wrinkles and her body was not pristine and she was older and nobody gave a damn about her body.
It's the most amazing thing to witness.
And it
'cause-
wasn't the body. It was more like her reaction as the bottom to being experiencing. I want to say it was like an electroplay scene or something like that. And her eyes are rolling in the back of her head. And it's hypnotic to watch. So you're not sitting there saying like, oh my gosh, she's got all these arm rolls or whatever.
no.
And even if somebody does say that, that's on them.
Yeah, fuck them.
That is your insecurities.
Yeah, that is your problem.
Yeah.
Everyone else is enjoying. So there are times where my vanilla brain kicks in because I'm like, I cannot believe I'm sitting here watching this. I remember I went to like a pegging class because I was interested in it at the time. And she actually had a pegging demonstration going on. And I remember sitting there actively like, boy, if me from like 5 years ago would see me now watching this transpire, because that's what we do at Kinky College. You go to a class that you're interested, you maybe want to partake. And even if you're unsure, you go just to figure it out. And there are things that are actively happening. You're getting exposed to everything, like you said, in like a dungeon or something like that, you're maybe not prepared for. A fisting class, they were once like in the front row, like, hey, by the way, we're dealing with butthole situations
Yep.
here. There might be
Heads
some
up. Yep.
matter involved. Just that's
Even if
how
you're
it
well
goes.
prepared, it could
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
So they were like letting that front row know, like, hey, if this is an issue for you, you might want
go
to
sit in the back.
Yeah, and some people did. But yeah, so it's interesting to see how some people will alert people around them, like, hey, this is going on. Other people don't and whatever. But like, you just kind of realize, hey, if I'm not into this, I have the right to walk away
Absolutely.
at any time.
Bingo.
Yeah, just like when we walked into the medical room, I'm like, ooh, sounding.
We knew what we were
I
walking
know.
into.
But
You
one,
think you do.
So
says the man
I'm
says
sorry.
the man who saw one thing is like, okay, that's
Yes.
enough of that. I'm gonna just
I
head
think
out
there was-
now.
we knew what the medical room was.
We knew what it was supposed
I'm sorry.
to be.
I'm sorry. Hold on. Let me repeat this. We knew which room was the medical room.
Yes. Might have potential for, I think
We
one
might
time
have
somebody was
potential.
getting their eyelids sewn shut. So the medical room has some interesting
excuse
things
me,
going
what?
on. Yeah, I didn't actually partake in the scene, but I know somebody actually walked through and saw it going on. And it's like, the medical room is a medical room. Things are happening with like fluids and everything. That's why it's prepared as such. with the tarps and
I
everything.
literally was expecting doctors in coats doing like because
You said that.
and
You're
that
like,
actually
why
did
is no
happen.
one dressed
No,
up?
we did find one scene, okay, because like when you look at porn and like you see like the hot doctor and whatever. I mean, that's hot. I've watched that. I'm not gonna lie, So I thought that there would be, and we did see a woman in stirrups and stuff was happening to her, so that was like cool. But then there's sounding, and then there's needle play, and then there's like all like
knives and everything.
Yeah.
Because you're prepared for fluids to possibly.
right. So like that's why they're in there
Yeah.
then, right? Because it's like
I also do wax play in that room too, just because
Oh.
it's designed to have the tarps down.
Got it.
And
There was
anything-
a lot of wax in there. That's right.
so that's
I don't
actually
remember
like
that.
smacks and wax, obviously that the wax part comes in there.
that's
so
a great name, by the way. I love that.
oh my God, your
wife
name
gets
is
credit for
so
everything.
good.
Yeah, smacks and wax.
My wife gets credit for everything.
Yeah.
If
okay.
you have not made a jingle already, I will
No.
be insulted. You need to make a jingle.
you make her a jingle.
I will
you're-
make you
yeah,
a jingle.
You will.
It just rolls off the tongue.
It does. It does.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, I
so
gotta
the,
write that down. 'cause
Easy to remember,
I am
too.
going to make this.
we actually invented or created the wax that we use for my wife specifically.
Okay. So I am dying to talk about this. I love seeing your journey leading
Yeah.
up through like this love connection.
Yeah.
To get to this business, because your wax, people came up to your booth and they were like, "This is unlike any other wax."
Yeah.
My dumb brain was like, "Wax is wax."
I know, that's what I thought. I didn't
Yeah.
know that there was like, just
Different
random
types.
wax that like
So
could
I
burn
actually-
you.
Right.
Like, you
So
don't
I
wanna
actually
use
went
it.
home after that and I got really into candle making.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh God, there's paraffin wax, there's soy wax, there's beeswax. Like I got really into that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I started stalking your Etsy.
So what is so
So
special
I am
about
dying
your?
to know. Like
Yes.
you don't have to tell me the formula or anything. But
No.
like what makes your wax so much different than everybody else's?
And what made you want to do that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So again, my wife, we designed these for her specifically. She is pale as fuck, burns in the sun, very sensitive. Yep, exactly. And
my people.
we were trying various supposedly low top candles and whatever. We tried a myriad of different ones, and we found out that none of them were working.
Really?
So she decided, like, let's try this pure paraffin spa grade, 100%.
And what does it mean? None of them are working. So how do you know what works and what doesn't?
For her, one, the sensation was too hot.
Gotcha.
For one, it was uncomfortable on her skin, and basically she didn't want to use it.
Okay, so my vanilla brain goes, well, of course it's too hot. It's from a candle.
But
so
also-
explain to the vanillas why.
And sorry.
Like why it's
Yeah.
supposed, like I thought kink was about pain. So then why is the candle wax too hot if you like pain?
And
So-
why wouldn't she just go, I don't want to do this anymore. This isn't for me.
Excellent.
There are a lot of answers to
Okay,
all
there
those
we go.
questions.
Sorry.
We're ready.
There are a lot of answers. Okay, so the first thing is kink is not always about pain. Pain is one sensation.
Okay.
And my wife and I both are sensation players. There's not just pain. there's thuddy, there's stingy. There's different pleasures that you can experience through different sensations. And we exchange energy and everything. So like that demure touch, I think one of the hottest scenes I've ever had with my wife is she had a fistful of my hair, leaned in right in my ear. Are you still with me?
Ooh.
And the tingles and like my body's leaning into hers and everything. So
Goddamn right, I'm with you.
yeah.
Oh,
so like
that's so hot.
it's not just about pain.
Yeah.
There are so many other aspects.
And just to clarify, I know it's not just about pain, but in my mind, hot candle equals pain.
Yeah.
That's
But
all. Yeah.
also, like, we're well versed in the idea that there's a billion sensations to
Right.
play with. But a year ago,
Yeah.
we were misinformed as shit.
Yeah.
I mean, we still don't know
We
a lot.
still very
but
much
yeah,
are.
So
We-
that's why
we are
this is very
perpetual
interesting.
students.
Okay.
Not
so,
just that, but like fire play in general. I remember when I first heard about fire play and I thought, oh, fuck no.
So candle
Right.
is considered fire play.
It's
Oh,
like
is it?
adjacent to it.
Okay.
So the reason
Oh.
I bring up fire play is you think like, ow, fire on my body. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Like that's going to burn like hell.
I love the way you said that, by the way. That was so like perfect TV commercial. Ow, no.
On my body, it's
Yeah.
gonna hurt.
Just wait, there's more.
Yes.
Are you following me, camera guy?
But yeah, so
that
fire
was
play
perfect.
is not just about like, ouch, I'm going to burn you. There are stingy forms of fire play, but fire play is also very sensual and hot and sexy. And fire play was actually the first scene that I ever had where my body was fully exposed because you don't want to have anything that might catch on fire or
Correct.
anything like that. So I had not a stitch on me. Vanilla me, who's so demure and like wanting to be covered up at all times. My arm rolls are hanging out. My tummy is a little puffy. You know, I have all my insecurities. Nobody gives a damn because you're experiencing this beautiful thing. You're watching that top. It's artistry.
Yeah.
When
Yes.
you're crafting a scene, it is not just about like, oh, I put fire on you.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
If it's done correctly.
right,
Yes.
right. Usually, that's how I conduct a wax scene because it's not like, oh, you just pour wax. It's like, it's sensory. You're touching that skin. You are maybe playing with that skin while you're doing it and whatever. But yeah, okay. So there are a lot of things that go into it. Fire play, you think, ouch, oh my gosh, that's going to burn. But fire can also have different sensations. It's not just about the ouch.
Okay. Understood.
So wax play is very similar. So I could probably put my finger in the wax right now. This is not like playing wax, whatever. But didn't you ever do that as a kid?
Yes, I have.
And
All
you're
the time.
putting
'Cause
on
it's fun to
layers
peel it
and
off
you
when it
peel it
dries.
off.
Uh-huh.
Last night.
That's where it comes from.
Okay.
So like you don't just want the ouch stingy. One, I want a scene. I don't want 2 minutes with you going ouch fuck. I want like 20 minutes or however long you will give me where I am engaging in not just the wax being put on your skin or I'm not very creative, but I've seen some people create like pictures with the wax and
That's
everything.
beautiful. I love
And
that.
on a body, it is probably one of the sexiest things I've ever seen. You have that body on display. You are almost enhancing the features of everything by doing the wax. So to me, I think it's very beautiful. And so again, back to my wife, she's pale as fuck, burns in the sun. We tried these paraffin candles and by golly, it worked. And while we're doing our business for the paddles and everything, she starts saying, what if we made them into like crayons?
It's so cool to see.
Crayons.
If you guys have not seen this, please make sure you check out this link because they look so
They're
badass.
crayons.
So why did she make it into crayons?
Well, she's TISM for one thing. And she thought like, oh, wouldn't
love
that be
this.
cute? And she's quirky and fun and
so
whatever.
it's just a different way of presenting the candle.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So like some people, they'll use like a jar method or whatever. Part of the reason that we use a candle form, like a pillar candle form, is that it's really easy to turn off just by blowing it. Like blowing the candle out, whatever.
Versus a cup.
Versus a cup that's like, well, you have hot wax in that cup now. It has to dissipate. And also when the wax is being pooled, that increases the temperature.
Oh, shit. Duh.
Awesome.
That makes complete sense.
Yeah, it really does. And the method matters. And most of the time, people don't realize that goes into a wax. They think like, oh, I pour the wax, whatever. And because paraffin burns the way it does, first of all, going into candle wax, whatever, beeswax is so hot. That's like 180. Do not play with beeswax with people.
Can you actually walk us through this? Because like for anyone who has no idea, like I had no idea right now. So like, please walk us through this.
So there's definitely different ranges. So you've got like beeswax. I think it's like 180 or something like that.
So not recommended for
180 degrees.
Yes.
Like I want to put that out there.
Yeah.
That's boiling, right?
No, that's like 220, 240.
But it's pretty fucking close. Yeah.
It's definitely too hot. It's not safe.
Like you will have a second, third degree burn.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. On most skin types.
Okay.
Not even sensitive ones. Just on most skin types.
No shit.
Yeah. So a lot of people, they'll use soy or a soy blend. One, a lot of people add like UV dyes. It's beautiful. It drips very nicely. And sometimes that's half the sexiness of it and whatever. And it pools and you pour it.
So this kind of wax is okay? What the one you're talking about now?
That's like mainstream wax play.
Okay.
Unfortunately, that burns at 150 or so.
No shit.
The reason we use paraffin, 100% pure spa grade, is that it burns at 120.
Oh.
120 is basically a nice hot chocolate. It is a nice hottish bath without feeling like a burning sensation. Yes, it burns when it hits the skin, but it dissipates very quickly. And unlike most wax where you have to like raise the elevation to have that temperature dissipate, because it's 120, you can hold it just a few inches from the skin if you wanted.
So you have more control on where it goes.
It is.
And
not only that, it doesn't drip or fall into various body types might have crevices and rolls and everything like that. And then you have to worry about risks of burning or pooling, which would create more burns. So paraffin is a very controlled drip.
Love that. So all your candles are paraffin.
Paraffin.
Gotcha.
And then also because of that, it's peels off so nicely. It's spa grade. It's meant to be on your skin.
Oh, okay.
So it peels off in a nice layer as opposed to like soy or soy blend. That's crumbly. It's hard.
Yeah.
So it makes cleanup so much easier.
It is.
Wow.
And honestly, in a dungeon or play space, people love that because so many people will engage in wax play and not really realize how it goes. But you've got the wax that's going anywhere, everywhere. Maybe they didn't tarp correctly. I've seen something at Kinky College where you're using your key card or credit card and you're scraping that out manually because we are not paying the hotel for cleanup. And we have this engagement relationship with that hotel to perpetuate this event for several years. We are caring for that hotel while it's in our possession.
Yes.
So,
just like our toys and our people.
Yeah. So, like, you need to be considerate of your space around you and whatever, and clean up after yourself. People who are unfamiliar of how that wax looks and what it does and where it goes and everything. There's so many nuances that we do as Smacks and Wax that, like, once you use our candles, you're sold. So actually, we just did an event at Chicago Rose on Saturday. Somebody has run out of our candles because they use it so often. I think they purchased 7 sets of 3 because we do like a 3 for $20 because 3 colors is usually a really good scene.
Yeah.
Also, most pride flags are 3 colors.
Okay.
So
makes sense.
like 3 colors, it's a decent scene. I think she bought 7 sets of 3 and got almost like 2 of every single color we provide. Just because she has done it so often. And people start realizing like, oh, wow, that's really easy to use. At an event like Kinky College, they use it night 1 or night 2. They're coming back to get some before they leave.
Hell yeah.
Yep.
And also with purchasing in person, it's usually cheaper because then we don't have to do shipping
ship.
and
right.
cost and
yeah.
whatever.
Right.
So doing it in person is usually the best way to get a hold of us. So
That's awesome.
oh my God. Like I'm like, okay, this isn't hyperbole. This isn't me blowing smoke. I'm literally making a shopping list as we're talking.
You've been jotting down notes like
well,
crazy.
I keep back and forth. I'm like, what am I going to buy from this? When
Like he's on page 3 now.
I am on page 3.
Yeah.
Holy shit. So like what, God, like I have so
many
many
questions.
I have so many questions. Like some of them are like more personal.
Start
like,
from the beginning.
Okay. So you're. I mean, people are buying these in droves. Have you put these in like stores or anything?
Not yet. I do know that there's a couple locally. The thing about that is like paraffin's a soft wax. So it can get damaged the more you touch it or whatever.
So shipping it out in hot weather, oh my God.
Keeping it on the shelves where people are fucking with it.
Yeah, usually we try to do it in person to protect the quality.
Okay.
And then when we...
That's clever.
When people purchase candles, sometimes we will do hand delivery just if they're in the area or whatever. I usually go within like an hour radius. I'll hand deliver.
That's good business.
Who the hell does that? That's
good
amazing.
Business people do, yes.
I do.
Yes.
Protecting our quality of our products. And it's
protecting
90
your
degrees
customer
outside right now, so I don't want to shift that.
No.
Oh my God. That's exactly what was on my mind is like, how do you make sure that the product is not only good, but the customer experience with the product is good? And that's what it is. Like it takes that extra.
She just told you. What do you mean? I'm kidding.
No, so
Give me the pen.
we had an event locally at Milwaukee Naughties a couple weeks ago.
Wait, I haven't heard of this location. Milwaukee Naughties?
Milwaukee Naughties.
Write that down.
I absolutely love this
So
name. It sounds like a
it's
like
a
a pizza
munch,
party.
and it's a munch that involves alcohol because it's at a bar. It's called Lacage,
Oh, I'm definitely going to that
I was
one.
going to say,
which
let's
is
go.
known as a gay bar. And
Let's
yeah,
absolutely
so it's amazing.
go.
Sometimes they have drag shows or whatever.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Because LGBTQIA plus borders and overlaps with kink so much. Places like Lacage that are known to service the gay community are also providing a location for us to have a munch.
Love that.
So Milwaukee Naughties, they engage in some play while you're there. They have limitations on certain types of play that you can't do. They have their rules and regulations that they have to follow because of the event location.
Correct.
Yep.
So Lacage has hosted us very generously at Lacage, and we actually were supposed to have been there about a year ago. I got food poisoning the day of, and we're talking about 2 hours, and I'm like, I can still make it, and I'm throwing up, and it's just like, one, that's not my kink, and rainbow play is not everyone else's kink too.
That's true.
So that's a hard limit for most people. So I did not go. So we did not go because it often takes the two of us to set up, unload. We have totes of material, and then
Absolutely.
I actually handle a lot of the logistics for the business. So I'm often included in the setup.
So what would you say is the difference between running a vanilla business and running a kink business?
They overlap quite a bit.
Okay.
So one thing that we've actually had a lot of success with and adds to our professional display, I've actually been a vendor for other various vanilla things.
That's why I'm asking, because
whether
you've been
that's
both.
selling jewelry or I think I was in collagen at one point in time.
Oh, shit.
I've actually done vanilla vendor events.
Right.
And I actually know somebody who does chainmail who will do vanilla events with her chainmail and then also kink events with chainmail.
Absolutely.
So-
they cross over really well.
Yeah, and it's like Bristol Renaissance Fair.
I go to Gen Con every year, which is the big gaming convention in Minneapolis. So yeah, like I want armor so badly, but
yeah, it overlaps. But yeah, so
So there are no differences, like when it comes to how you advertise.
that's
or,
what I'm interested in.
Yeah.
honestly, I think they overlap maybe 95%. Because one, you want to have your table set up, and like I do a professional display, and I think that's what adds to our professional brand.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
And so we have our black tablecloths. We have like a very good setup, even though we don't have lights yet. That's maybe one of the things that's missing.
Absolutely.
We will add that eventually,
Yeah.
but like sometimes it's hard to get outlet service depending on where you
True,
are
true.
in the event and whatever. So
For some places, you have to pay like $300 or $400 just to go plug in.
Yeah. So we haven't quite done that aspect, but we still have a lot of success with just our display and everything. And it's very neat and organized and tidy. I think I bought these like little crate things that Target to hold the candles and everything. And it just looks like that's how you present it.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And because each paddle is unique, you can't recreate the exact same thing. When you do a lightning fractal, which is one of the paddles that we offer, electricity does what it wants. You can't tell
it
electricity.
like burns through.
Oh, like that's a decoration for it? Oh.
That's half of our paddles that we started doing. So
That's
like,
what I was wondering
So it's
about.
called lightning fractal?
lightning fractal.
And how does that work?
So basically, my wife does it the safe way. Please do not do this at home. This is not a kink that you can repeat. Please don't be a statistic because people will.
Wait. So is this a kink or a method for decoration or both?
It kind of is attractive to a lot of people in kink.
Now I'm remembering this now.
Okay.
You're talking like scarification and shit.
Some people do that way.
okay.
But like, so the lightning fractal, when you do it on a paddle, one, electricity is not to be fucked with. It must be respected. And this is where a lot of people think like, oh, I can make that at home. I can do this at home. I can do this myself. Please, for the love of God, do not. So my wife actually will have the plain paddle. There's like a solution that she puts on it. One electrode at one end, another electrode at another end. And she is literally standing like 3 feet away.
No shit.
And pressing the button with something that's actually not her hand. That's how safe we are about it.
That's smart.
So, and that's why we say, please do not be a statistic. Please let us take the risk for you because
then
we
the-
do it appropriately.
The electrodes then create a what kind of pattern?
Connect. It looks like lightning.
Lightning. Okay.
And then she does a resin fill depending on like what color. Sometimes like a brownish wood. Some of the teals and
That
the greens
sounds
look
so
really good.
cool.
Or
Wow.
like the bloodwood or red heart that we use sometimes. That's like the
That's-
natural red.
That's the one that caught my attention.
Yeah.
Well, just
Yeah.
because the brand colors and everything.
Yeah, and then we have like the mica powders, and sometimes those are a little iridescent, so that looks really cool filled in
Okay.
too. So that was our first. When we started Satyricon, that very first thing, we had what I call basic bitch boards. They were
It
plain,
works on so many different levels. It's so good.
and we actually probably
Please tell me that you were selling them as basic bitch
And
boards,
please tell me
'cause
it was
that's
like
so funny.
carved in. It was like,
No.
Oh my God. Come on.
we didn't know what we were doing at that point.
Okay.
We were vastly underpriced for the quality that my wife was
Yeah.
providing.
I personally think you still
when you know
are.
better. you
And
do better.
because, well, people who know the artistry and whatever,
Yep.
they know what the paddle is worth. Because
Right.
even people who work with like scrap wood and turn it into a paddle or whatever, they're like, you use premium exotic wood. Your prices are what they are because of that.
Yes.
If you're buying a cheap paddle, it might break.
And that's the best thing in the world to have happen is to have your
That's
shit
adding
break
more
and-
risk and whatever.
Sarcasm, right?
So, okay,
Yeah.
sorry, /S.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the thing about using quality materials and whatever, and that's kind of what our
Yeah.
brand stands for.
Yep.
But the basic bitch boards,
Fucking love the name.
my wife was getting a little bored of
Thank you
doing
for the
the basic bitch boards. So we
She was bored of the basic bitch. I
Yeah.
can't even say it.
Yeah.
Sorry,
So
please continue.
she decided what we call the artisan line. And that includes the lightning fractals that are resin filled. That also includes where she'll chase the grain and create like resin filled indentations, like
Wow.
our pride one that
Yeah.
we call.
So you could even display it as a piece of art. I'm sure
It
people
is.
do. Yeah.
It is. So actually, when she told her family about this, because they did not know that we were engaging in kink, like most people in the kink world, we don't necessarily tell our vanilla families
Right,
or whatever
right.
what we do on the weekends. We're like, oh, we're going out with friends. We're out of town
Yeah.
exploring. Yeah. We make up whatever story
Yeah.
to
But
like,
now they know.
well, now they really know. But when we first talked about our paddles and showed them pictures, they're like, oh, you could go to a craft fair with this.
You could. I mean, you could.
Yeah. Well,
They'll
they're
be like, oh, these are nice cutting boards.
These are amazing charcuterie. This
Yeah.
is so pretty.
Yeah. Yeah. So
That's so funny.
that was fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, they still think that we should do craft fairs, and that's what we do. But like,
I mean, let's be honest, it kind of is. You're being crafty.
there's a big difference between like a craft fair where you're making a few $100s maybe over a weekend, but when we go to conventions, it gets quite lucrative just because of one, the quality, two, the price point. For as much as we could charge for ours, we try to be affordable and accessible because kink is expensive.
Yes.
And
People don't realize how much money you end up
It is.
spending on
It is.
outfits and toys. And even if you can't afford it, you're like, well, I'm here. I'm going to buy that $100 leather tie.
Right. And even though the economy is what it is and things have transpired where it is, everything's a dumpster fire right now, we try to be accessible for everyone because this is our community and we look at this as servicing our community, providing a service that maybe other people cannot create. My wife is talented. She's very talented.
Yeah.
But what good is that if it's at a price point that people can't afford?
Correct. So you must be doing something right because you keep selling out. So
We sell out. So like you said, when we met at the convention, my wife is literally most conventions sitting there making product as we are there because she cannot keep up with the demand that we have. And sometimes we sell out of things. Sometimes we also do custom orders if we're able to. There is a demand and we appreciate that demand, but it's also been an explosive, unexpected popularity where it's actually been kind of stressful for us because like you said, we've only been doing this, coming up, this is maybe 2 years in November. And I just did a cross-country trek to Portland Kink Fest.
Holy shit, good for you.
In my SUV, I traversed... I did not expect Wyoming to have
I was just there.
the highest elevation, and you reach it very quickly.
And you can feel it.
You feel it. And actually, my lungs are damaged from COVID. So I felt it even worse.
Was your head okay?
No,
of course not.
They actually call it the highway to heaven, stairway to heaven, 8640 elevation.
wow.
And that's actually pretty high for the U.S., the continental U.S., other than going to Alaska or whatever.
And you can't tell in Wyoming either because it's a whole lot of nothing. And then you're just like...
It's unexpected. And then suddenly you're just going along. There's no warning that it's coming up either.
Wow.
So I'm just driving along, whatever. And 8640 happens and I nearly want to pass out. And it wasn't just Wyoming. It was going into Oregon and they call it the Blue Mountains, and they're going fast because they do this on a regular basis. So they are speeding through
Right.
because you have almost like hypoxia where the air is so thin, you have a hard time adjusting to it because it's not your regular basis type of thing. They're flying through there and I'm barely coherent. Oxygen deprivation. I actually had to stop at one point at a low point where there was a McDonald's or whatever and actually sit there for a half hour and just kind of catch my breath.
Yeah. Acclimate yourself to the
So
environment.
going out to Portland was mentally difficult, emotionally difficult. One, I was without my wife traveling because she's got that full-time office job that she's got to do and she didn't have a lot of PTO. So I actually did this trek by myself.
That's
Utah was an experience that I did not expect.
Why?
They call it a witch mountain or something like that. But the moment you are about to enter Salt Lake City, there's a mountain pass and it looks like something out of Jurassic Park where it's got all of the foliage and whatever. And you're going into this mountain and there was a torrential downpour immediately. And the locals are all speeding and going every which way. And I'm kind of like, I can barely see. I get behind a semi who's got their hazard lights on, and I am gripping that steering wheel.
Just follow that puppy wherever he goes.
Oh my gosh. So I was lucky that I spent an extra day in Utah. I'm in grad school full time, so I had a paper due. So I spent an extra day just writing my paper, coming down, adjusting to the elevation, getting my bearings, not leaving the hotel because, oh my God, that was insane. So Utah, Oregon, get to Portland, my check engine light comes on, and I'm strongly identifying with that check engine light coming on because I feel like my own internal check engine light has come on. I just spent how many days traversing from Wisconsin to the West Coast, Portland. Technically, I was staying over the state lines in Vancouver, Washington. So getting all the way there, and then about an hour later, actually, I went to class once I got to the hotel. And then about an hour later, I go to the venue. And I tell them everything, and they're like, honey, please sit down. You look like you're not feeling well. Can we get you anything? The hospitality was amazing, just being there.
That's really nice.
That's a beautiful thing about like the kink community is that it translates state borders. And sometimes
cool
even countries with people who come from overseas.
That's so
the photographer from Kinky College actually comes from the UK.
That's right. He has an English accent. I told you that. Yeah.
Forgot about that.
Yeah. So it translates everywhere. We are a community.
Yeah. Everybody's super welcoming and friendly.
So, but yeah, it was definitely an experience to go all the way to the West Coast. And I thought I was going the southern route to avoid the snow. Actually, in Idaho, it dropped down to like 30 degrees and it started snowing. It started snowing in Oregon. I'm prepared for like 60, 70 degree weather. So I'm in shorts and a tank top. I mean, I'm from Wisconsin, so we're kind of used to the cold. I can drive in the snow. This is fine. I've got this handled, but I am not dressed for it. So that was interesting. And I thought by going south, I was avoiding the snow. But anyways, when my wife decided to drive back with me, we were actually planning on doing a second convention going straight to Atlanta.
Whoa. That's a hell of a...
She was actually going to be driving with me to make sure, one, I was safe, and two, have that experience together and time together and everything. And we were going to be driving 13-hour days just to make the deadline to get there by Thursday.
Right.
But of course, because my check engine light went on, and we are talking like almost $2,000 just to fix. So basically, almost everything that we made at that convention went straight to repairs.
Jesus,
I'm
sorry.
Shit. You had talked a little bit about this, but I didn't know that was the good God. You're transversing the country. You're going to all these conventions. You're doing amazing. Where is your mental health at in all this? Yeah, so that's the thing about being in grad school for clinical mental health is that that's at the forefront of what we do in our classes. So actually, one of the first classes I had in my program was self-care weekly. Because when you're caring for other people's mental health, you also need to prioritize your own. Basically, if you can't practice what you preach, you have no business being in the profession.
I love that my therapist has therapists.
You do. You should. Because oftentimes people are talking about very triggering traumatic events and possibly unhealthy toxic relationships and whatever. And that's also bad energy that you're taking in. So you're needing to reset yourself. Burnout for the therapy profession right now is 2 years.
Whoa.
What? If you look at the dumpster fire that the world is right now and everything since the pandemic, especially, and if you're a millennial like me, unprecedented times is kind of what we've lived through most of our lives. You look at Gen Z, that's all they know. So, clinical mental health, you're basically thinking about it at all times. So, did you push the button? Yeah, doing mental health is basically like you have to prioritize it no matter what you're going through. And oftentimes with having the business aspect that keeps us so busy, my wife and I actually said, we need to take a pause on our event schedule.
Oh, that's super smart.
So after our spring session and everything, we took a very big pause. And after our busy last fall, we took a very big pause.
Good. You need a reset.
She's working nonstop. I mean, it's almost like 3 jobs that she's doing. And I used to be the breadwinner working in accounting and finance. And now I'm not. I'm definitely not. Being a full-time grad student, I don't have time to deliver for Amazon part-time, whatever to help make ends meet. But next semester, for example, I have 3 classes. So I'm not able to do much else. So balancing mental health has become a little more difficult. I got in a car accident about 4 weeks ago delivering for Amazon. Wisconsin, we have roundabouts and not everyone knows how to use them. Somebody was from out of town and in the wrong lane, didn't know where she was going, and she turned right into me. And it was a small little dent in my car, but that small little dent in my car changed my life because now I know that I for sure have fibromyalgia.
You found out through the accident that you have it?
Through the accident.
Oh my
so
God.
basically what happened is the very next day, my hands felt like they were on fire. And it was so painful. I'm used to chronic pain. I've had chronic coccydynia, which is your broken tailbone. I nearly broke it clean off. The chronic pain that I was in was, I actually fell into complete mental breakdown.
Oh my God.
So when you're talking about mental health and kink, I am intimately aware of how your mental health can affect your existence in the kink community. And because I know of that, I talk about it more often because it needs to be addressed. I think too often we're engaging in play and we're having good times and community and everything is so great, but we're ignoring the people aspect. I think one time I was in a class at Kinky College. I go to Kinky College a lot, so a lot of my stories come from there.
That's great.
But yeah, we were in like a conversation type segment and somebody said something that stuck with me. They were talking about their relationship with their dominant, and their dominant was doing something I think very helpful or like household oriented. And she said, knock that off. You're my dom. I need you to be my dom.
Oh,
I don't need you to do boyfriend type acts.
Yep.
And it really struck me because now I think of that. So many people view each other as kink dispensers and not actually acknowledging them as human beings.
Bingo.
Ooh.
And then so often, like when you do that, you're objectifying somebody and then not actually acknowledging them in their existence, but also respect. And all too often, I think that affects us emotionally and mentally. You have your own psyche, and that's kind of harsh and whatever. I feel like a lot of women especially get the objectification. They get the unwanted advances. You get attention, but you also get attention from the unwanted, maybe crossing borders of obsession or
Maybe.
unhealthy.
Yeah.
So it's definitely something that you have to keep in the forefront. But yeah, so a lot of people like myself, we've dealt with chronic pain for whatever. We are used to having disabilities. We're used to having mobility issues and autoimmune disorders and everything. So a lot of people in the kink community know what it's like to have some sort of disability. And like for me with the fibromyalgia, my hands would not stop burning. I had the fibro fog so bad. And I was actually excusing a lot of my symptoms as perimenopause. And I thought, I'm over 40. I don't have a uterus. That's what it is. And it was actually fibromyalgia. And it completely changed everything. And then right around that same time, my wife also got a different med to help her sleep more soundly. It's actually designed for people who have narcolepsy, which is like the falling asleep on command or whatever, or just like they can't control when they fall asleep or whatever. It's a very debilitating disorder. And I think that's a lot of the things that being neurospicy, being neurodivergent in the community, we know that you can have deficits or have issues that affect your mental, emotional, physical status at any time. So my wife also got a med at the same time that also improved her mental clarity. And now all of a sudden we are acting like we were 10 years ago when we were younger. We're flirting with each other more heavily.
Yeah.
We have more energy. The only thing is we're in 40-year-old bodies. So it's very difficult for me to pace myself, and I'm Virgo type A, so I'm doing all the things, and my body is literally saying, the fuck you are.
Take a nap.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's been an interesting ride. It's been interesting to whatever, but I guess the thing that I always try to bring to the forefront is mental health, because we are forgetting that we are people first.
So that's why you're taking your education, and you're going to be a therapist, correct?
Yeah.
Who specializes in kink?
Yes.
Okay.
So I think it's kink-aware type of therapist. NCSF, also the National Coalition for Sexual Freedom, also promotes kink-aware therapists as well, because things that you go into, for example, polyamory, that doesn't really exist in the vanilla world like it does in kink, where we are intimately aware of the multiple relationships we have with other people. And I actually just interviewed somebody from the community to present that to the class.
Okay.
We do discuss these things hypothetically in an educational room, but people don't understand what that looks like, what it actually looks like. You're not being slutty. You're not being greedy. You are having meaningful relationships with different people that give you different needs. One person may not be able to give you this need, but the other one does fulfill it.
I love what you said upstairs about the friendship. Like how many different friends we have for the different needs, like when you watch movies with, when you go shopping with, when like
emotionally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Polyamory is no different. That's actually what it is, essentially. I think there's a lot of stigma, and that's why they're going with the word ethical non-monogamy, just because you want to have everything above board. Because if you're not, you're going into cheating, you're going into issues of jealousy and unhealthy relationships, etc.
Yeah.
So engaging in ethical non-monogamy while you're being poly is keeping everything above board. Everyone is in the know about everything. You may not want to be in relationships within your polycule, which is the multiple relationships that can exist within polyamory. But
what do you mean you might not want to be in relationships?
Yeah.
So just because Sally might have a boyfriend with Todd, and Todd has a boyfriend with Chad, I'm just using random names here. Chad is not in a relationship with Sally.
Got it.
Right.
So like just because you exist in a polycule does not mean you have a relationship with every single person.
Meaning that you have a person in common.
You have a person in common.
But that doesn't mean the two people who have that person in common.
Everyone's in a relationship with each other.
Got it.
So
but that could be the case.
Right.
If that's what they want.
Right. So the people who add more partners, they're not being greedy. They're not being selfish. They're not, just being slutty or whatever. All those stigmas that come along with polyamory, there is a lot more complexity that you're adding when you're adding multiple partners. It is not easy to be poly. So I think there's a lot of stigma that goes along with that. So that's just one example of being kink aware.
Time commitment alone.
Yeah. So, and you also want somebody to understand the brain chemicals that are fluctuating while you're engaging in scenes and various kinks that you might be enjoying. And that impacts your mental, emotional, physical health as well.
Do you want to share a little bit about like how you can best keep your mental health clear and steady? Like what are some of the steps that people can take to take care of themselves?
One thing, my very first class as a presenter, and actually this means a lot to me, a presenter that I admire and I kind of look up to, she suddenly passed away.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We are talking like a week before Kinky College.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
And one of the classes she was supposed to present was on aftercare and drop. And I threw my hat in the ring because I thought, we cannot have an event without that class on Sunday to tell you like, hey, you just enjoyed a lot of stuff and your endorphins are running high. But there is also the drop that happens after an event, or maybe you had some really bad experiences that in the days after an event, suddenly those experiences are feeling a lot different. So when you're experiencing drop, there can be a lot of negative aspects that you need to take care of. So I took a moment to honor this person, Bebe Blue Eyes. And actually, I can divert for that for a little bit. We were at Exploration in Kink last November, and that was actually her stomping ground. So they actually had a cigar social that they used to donate to NCSF, because that was a passion for her, was making sure that we had the knowledge and freedom to be able to exercise in kink however we choose. And to be there, it felt like I came full circle, because I started with that aftercare and drop class to begin with. And then we went to Exploration in Kink. We have the Smacks and Wax business. And then I also presented wax play because of the way I present wax play. I include the risk. I include the safety. I include crafting the scene. It's not just pouring wax on somebody. So I want the experience. I want the sensation. I want that connection. And I present. Some people will comment about like when I am using my wife as the demo bunny type person, the energy instantly shifts. It's palpable because we have that connection. So I'm doing the scene on her and everything, and it feels great. And everyone's noticing like, wow, wax play can be like really sexy and just like a really great form of play. And it's easy to do. You don't need like acumen to be able to do this. You don't need several sessions. You don't need a lot of practice. Basically, you have a session with me in class, go do it. You don't need any sort of like building up skills. You can just go do it.
Yeah.
So
that's a great starter kink.
Yeah, it really is. And being from that class after Care and Drop to the wax play in her stomping grounds really felt very impactful for me. And so that first aftercare and drop, I wanted to emphasize the mental health that goes with it, because so many people forget that we are people and we have emotions and everything. So one of the first things I say is set up a therapy session, because you're going to have feelings and you're going to need to sort that out with somebody. And kink is not a substitute for therapy. It might feel cathartic, but it is not a substitute for therapy. So having somebody who's a mental health professional who is actually trained to help you through those transitions and those feelings and process them in a healthy way, that is like step numero uno that I would say. Also giving yourself grace, because those are big feelings that you come out of an event with. And even if you're doing like a dungeon scene or whatever, you do private play with somebody, you need to set up those things. One of the things I do after a convention is actually set up meals that I can prep just throwing in the oven. Either like I meal prep before, so there's meals that I can throw in, or like a baked lasagna or something like that. So that way I don't have to like worry about meals. Generally speaking, I clean the house before I leave an event. So I come home and I can just exist.
Yeah, crash on the couch. And
you're dropping, you know, and everything that's so difficult. You just give yourself grace and you set yourself up for success. And
that's
then
really good advice. Yeah.
One of the things I say, like when I'm doing a class like that, is I have an index card for everyone in pens. And it's like, please write down your plan, so you can plan for this in the future, not just this event, but other events. And also write down your support. Do you have a partner? Do you have a friend? Do you have a therapist? What does your support network look like?
Oh, you mean you're asking the person you're playing with?
No, just like in the class that I usually do.
Got it. In the class, okay.
And also like in general, like write down that plan so you have it to reflect on.
Oh, I love that.
I like setting people up for success, because that fallout will happen. It's not an if, it's a when. And that's the thing about like playing in kink and everything, is you got to set yourself up for success when shit hits the fan. It is when, not if. You can't always plan for every scenario, but you can definitely plan for what happens when fallout happens?
Yeah.
What happens when you go nonverbal? What happens when you get triggered? Plan for the worst case scenario. So that way, if it happens, you've got something to fall back on, because you don't plan for a trigger. You don't plan for drop. You don't plan for like your blood sugar to tank and then suddenly you are like passed out or whatever.
Yeah. There's a difference between like if you slept well, you ate well, you're hydrated, you're in a good mental space, you have a scene, versus I didn't get enough sleep, I skipped breakfast and I'm dehydrated. Like things could go really sideways. Yeah.
And that's actually one of the first things I do when I'm conducting a scene as a top. Did you eat today? Are you hydrated? Is there anything that changed in the last like day or so that would whatever? And in a convention type scenario like Kinky College, there are several days that you're playing. So like you might have a scene for day 2, night 2 in the dungeon, but you had one hell of a scene on night 1, plus you did 2 other scenes and whatever. How is your mental status right now? So like it is a marathon, not a sprint. That's the thing about like mental health and everything, is that like it always needs to be evaluated. You always have to participate in some sort of self-care. You have to look out for yourself, because even when, like I encourage my wife, she's my principessa and everything, but our relationship hinges on the fact that I expect autonomy from her, because I need her to be able to tell me when she's had enough, when she needs something, whatever. I need her to use her voice so I can make a better decision. And I think some people forget when they're submissive or bottom or whatever, you must retain your autonomy, because I need you to tell me when you've had enough, when you really can't do it, when you want to, but you really shouldn't do it, when you have needs that are maybe being neglected, when your needs shift. And I think that's the difference between engaging in a healthy long-term relationship, which is what my wife and I have had. I started out in the community thinking I was a submissive. I wanted her to be my dom originally. And now the tables have switched. And it, our gender has switched. The expression, the sexuality, everything has transversed. And now we're business owners. I mean, there are things. I left my accounting career. I did not anticipate that. 10 years ago, I didn't anticipate getting cancer. So it's just like, you got to roll with it. You got to be flexible.
Holy shit. Yeah. Okay. So you are a wealth of knowledge, a wealth of emotion, and a wealth of good for the community. If people wanted to reach out to you, what is the best way that they can reach you?
So I have my FetLife profile, MissKyleigh, capital MISS, no space, capital KYLEIGH. Okay. So that's a mouthful, but yeah. MissKyleigh, you can always reach out. I am a facilitator. I am not a licensed therapist, so I cannot be your therapist. I can help advocate for mental health. It is definitely my platform, my passion, something I definitely resonate with. I can help. I can be that advocate. I have resources. I have knowledge, but I can definitely not be your therapist.
But you can point people in the right direction.
Yeah.
And then if they were so inclined to learn about your paddles, play toys, and amazing wax for sale, how can they find it?
Yeah, so actually I promote a lot of that on my page. My wife does some of it, but she's more so in the shop doing all the actual activity, which is why I handle the logistics. And one, it's under my profile because I just cannot handle one more page that I am.
Yes, you're speaking
I have
to
enough
the choir.
Preaching the choir on that
I
one.
have enough plates that I'm spinning, so it is on my profile. Also, my Etsy, the store Etsy link is on my bio.
Okay.
And for the people who might be listening to this instead of while watching it, what's the best way they can find your Etsy?
So it's Smacks and Wax all together, one word, capital S, capital A, capital W, all one word. Smacks and Wax
on Etsy. Perfect.
Yeah.
Because people might not be on FET, so
Yeah, that's true.
we also want to sell to them.
Yeah, we want to make sure your name's getting out there.
Yeah. We'll put all the links below.
And we'll put all the links.
Yeah.
But MissKyleigh, thank you unbelievably for coming today.
Yeah.
And hopefully someone takes to heart. Like you had an amazing journey.
Yeah.
You have an amazing experience, but like you're also giving back head over heels, and you're giving back so much. And I know someone's going to take something from this and run with it.
Well, the thing about like the community that I got is I got my everything. I got my soulmate. My very existence right now comes from this community. So I give back with a passion, and so does my wife. We definitely, we're so appreciative, and we consider everything we give to be a service to the community. And because we're the adults in the room, we're the adultier adults, so we need to start using our wealth of knowledge and mistakes that come along with that, and being transparent and leading maybe somebody who's struggling, and whether that's a 20-year-old or an 80-year-old, we try to be that beacon of hope, or whatever, as cliche and cheesy as that is. But when shit hits the fan, you know, there's a lot of bad things that come along with kink sometimes. And I guess I feel like I'm tired of losing people to things, whether that's burnout or worst case scenario. And it's just like, we got to start talking about this stuff. I need to be that leader. I need to step up. So giving back to the community is just innate.
Well, that's a wrap.
You can find out more of our work, our art, and everything bad at boudoirafterdark.com. Stay curious.
Stay unapologetic.
Stay bad.
You are my toy.
The Boudoir After Dark podcast is brought to you by Boudoir After Dark, creating photo and video art for the unapologetically erotic. The podcast is produced by Jason Osterkamp, Hilda Burke, and Donna. Music by Temple of Hunger.
Given.